No matter how much we love our families, we don't always agree on everything. Parents never understand the music we listen to or why we're all addicted to TikTok, but most of the time, they love and care for us anyway. Grant Amato put his family through a lot with his obsession over a girl he met online. And when they tried to bring him back to reality, he made sure they could never tell him what to do ever again. Let's dive in. Born on May 20th, 1989, Grant Amato was the youngest of 3 kids, all boys. His mom, Margaret Amato, had her first son, Jason, with a previous relationship, and he was adopted by her husband, Chad, when they got married. Together, they had Cody and Grant, who looked so similar they could have been twins, and they acted like it too. Cody and Grant did everything together. They were best friends and always had each other's back. They were both kinda nerdy too, into video games and computers, but there was one fascination that Grant had that the rest of his family didn't share: guns. While the family did own firearms and Cody and Grant both played airsoft, Grant was reportedly really into firing real weapons and was the only one in the family who really had any skill with one. This became a concern for everyone later on. After graduating from high school, Grant enrolled at the University of Central Florida, and after that he went on to join a nursing program, exactly as Cody had done. However, unlike Cody, Grant did not do well as a nurse. In 2018, he was fired from his job and arrested for grand theft. It turned out that while he was working as a nurse, he was stealing anesthetics and illegally giving them to patients who were, in his opinion, not relaxed enough. One of the medications he used in his crimes was called propofol, which is known as the drug that ended Michael Jackson's life in 2009. So anyone with a brain knows that giving patients too much of this could literally be deadly. Luckily, because his family really cared about his future and didn't want him to have an awful criminal record, they managed to help him get away with just losing his job. That was when things really started going downhill for Grant. After losing his job, it seems like Grant lost all his ambition and motivation to do anything except play on his computer all day and all night. He couldn't cope with the reality of being sad, unemployed guy in his late 20s, who still lived at home with his parents. So when he was online, he pretended to be somebody totally different. He told all his online friends that he was going to be a super successful Twitch streamer, that he drove a BMW and was totally loaded. In reality, he was just playing video games in his room while his parents begged him to get a job like every other guy his age. What his family didn't realize was that Grant was doing way worse than they could have imagined. Lonely and single, Grant went onto a cam site in search of a beautiful woman to spend time with. For a price, obviously. It was there that he found Sylvie, a model from Bulgaria who Grant became completely obsessed with. Because of Sylvia's job as a model on the website, people had to pay to watch her live streams and interact with her. It cost 90 tokens a minute to watch her, and tokens had to be bought with real money. Grant bought his in bulk, spending $600 at a time for 5,000 tokens. That sounds like it should last a while, right? Well, Grant literally spent all night watching and talking to Sylvie, so he always used up his credits super fast. But if he was unemployed, where was he getting the money for this? The answer? He stole it from his dad and Cody. He told them that while he was looking for a job, he was also trying to be a professional Twitch streamer and was using the money to promote himself. But no, every cent was used to pay for more time with Sylvie, and of course his family had no idea. It seems like Grant had a weird perception of the situation between him and Sylvie. Even though he literally had to pay to talk to her and send her expensive gifts, he thought that she was his girlfriend. He even sent her a video of himself asking her to send him things for free.
Yeah, I don't like buying your stuff. It makes me feel weird.
And yet, he kept at it. In the end, he spent over $200,000 just on Sylvie, and before long, the truth about what he was doing with his money came out. Grant's dad was working super hard to pay off the court fees from when Grant was arrested, and to support his streaming career, he even took out a second mortgage on their house. However, he noticed that Grant had taken out a credit card in his name and was using it to pay for Sylvie. This was when things exploded. They got into a huge fight, but Chad still refused to get the police involved. He was desperate to keep his son out of trouble. Thankfully, the charges against Grant were dropped, and he got the opportunity to go on vacation to Japan with one of their friends, and Cody, who paid for everything, of course. Things were good for a little while until they came home to an unwarm welcome. Grant's parents told him he had to get a job because they were tired of constantly pulling him out of trouble and supporting his lifestyle. They got into a huge fight, and Grant stormed out, running away to his aunt's house. There, he sent his mom some pretty scary messages saying he was tired of everything and he felt totally worthless. worthless. Scared he was going to do something to hurt himself, they called the police and reported Grant missing. Luckily, his aunt called and told them he was totally fine, for the most part. She also called to tell them that while Grant was staying with her, he'd stolen her credit card, and guess what he used it for? To buy credits to talk to Sylvie. Chad begged her not to report Grant to the police and confessed to everything that had been going on in their family and how he just wanted Grant to get better. He told me on the phone, "Yeah, I'm going to have to work a few more years than I thought I'd have to, but it's okay. I'll do it for Grant. I don't want him to go to jail." So they took Grant back home, but this time things were serious. They decided to stage an intervention and send him to a rehab facility where he could be treated for internet addiction. They made it clear that when he got it, he was not allowed to keep in contact with Sylvie while living in their house. Cody paid $16,000 for his brother to attend the 60-day program. He dropped out after 2 weeks. When he got home, he was given a list of strict rules that said he had to get a job, pay his own phone bill, and the debt he owed his parents, and go to therapy. But above all else, he was not allowed to talk to Sylvie ever again. While he was in rehab, his dad actually spoke to Sylvie and told her how Grant had been able to afford their relationship. And after that conversation, she wasn't interested in speaking to him again anyways. It took just a couple more weeks for everything to go wrong. On January 24th, 2019, Cody didn't come into work, and his colleagues knew straight away that something was up. Cody was never late, and he never skipped out on work without giving a reason. They called the police and asked them to perform a wellness check, especially as his girlfriend, who worked at the same hospital as Cody, had said the family was worried about Grant's mental state. Reportedly, a few days before, he stole a gun from Cody. The police drove to the Amato family home, and what they found there was indescribably awful. Margaret, Chad, and Cody were all dead. Of course, after hearing about what kind of person Grant was, the police immediately suspected him. They tracked him down to a nearby motel and asked him to come in for an interview, to which he agreed. During the interview, he told them his dad had kicked him out the day before when he discovered Grant was using his mom's phone to talk to Sylvie on Twitter. He said that his dad had been violent to him his whole life, and the last time he saw his family was when Cody walked him to his car. He claimed that everyone was alive and well, but the police already knew that wasn't true. Each member of the family had died due to gunshot wounds, and Cody's murder had been staged to look like he took his own life. Plus, during the autopsy, they figured out that Margaret and Chad had died hours before Cody did, who was at work during the day. The person who did this knew how to use a firearm and had a score to settle with the family. Even Jason came to the station begging his brother to tell the truth about what happened that day, but Grant wouldn't budge.
Just remember him mostly being silent and just saying he understood how I felt.
Cody's girlfriend revealed to the police that Grant had continued to steal money from Cody, who said his brother was unhinged and he was scared that Grant was going to kill everyone. With this in mind, Grant was arrested a few days later. At the trial, details of that fateful day were revealed to be more disturbing than first thought. Margaret died at her computer where she worked from home. The last time she was active on the computer was 4:45 p.m. It's believed that she died around this time. Chad's Fitbit recorded him coming home just under an hour later, taking a few steps into the house before all activity stopped. Between 8:30 p.m. and 9:30 p.m., a neighbor testified she believed she heard the gunshot that ended Cody's life. After killing his family, Grant took a thumb drive filled with pictures and videos of Sylvie and downloaded it onto his computer. Then he hacked into his dad's bank account using his thumbprint and spent $600 on reopening his account on the CAM website. At first, the prosecution really wanted Grant to get capital punishment if he was found guilty. However, the jury couldn't make a unanimous decision on capital punishment, but they did find him guilty of all 3 murders.
I would sentence you to life imprisonment without any possibility of parole as to each count. I further would indicate that you are to be released to the Department of Corrections as soon as feasibly possible, and otherwise, sir, just God have mercy on your soul.
That brings us to the end of today's video. What do you think of this case? Be sure to leave your thoughts down in the comment section.